The late 20th century saw the rise of a revolutionary new digital tool, dubbed computer-generated imagery, though more commonly referred to as CGI. Films such as Tron, Terminator 2: Judgment Day, and of course Jurassic Park, helped pioneer the use of CGI in visual effects. Computer animation was also used to supplement traditional hand-drawn animation in films such as Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King. However, Disney weren't the only ones embracing the new technology. Throughout the 1980s, Pixar animation studios produced a handful of fully computer-animated short films. In 1995, they went on to produce the first computer-animated feature film, Toy Story. Now, this is one of those films that everyone seems to have seen at some point.
Trágate eso, Mr. Danger!
What's your favorite movie?
Toy Story.
I realise that wasn't a super necessary inclusion, I just really love that film. Nevertheless, for the sake of tradition, before we begin, be warned this video will include spoilers. The Toy Story films explore the universal childhood question, do my toys come to life when I'm not looking? The fun version of that concept, not the terrifying one. Despite being the earliest computer-animated feature film, Toy Story still looks great. Granted, the animation is somewhat crude by today's standards. That being said, it actually holds up better than some more recent offerings. Certain things were either difficult, or in some cases impossible to achieve at the time. This meant the animators had to use a variety of techniques in order to make their vision a reality. For example, Andy's party guests are all the exact same character model as Andy, with different skin tones and clothes. However, these workarounds don't in any way detract from the viewer's enjoyment. It's clear the filmmakers were committed to making the best quality film they could. For instance, in order to capture the movement of the Green Army men, the animation team nailed a pair of shoes to a wooden board, and filmed one another attempting to walk around in them. Toy Story was the first film to include production babies in the closing credits. This has since become a regular feature in Pixar films, and has also been adopted by other studios, such as Disney. Not only are these credits fun to watch out for, they also show the value Pixar places on its employees and their families. While the technical achievements of Toy Story are impressive and worth talking about, it isn't solely reliant on them. What cements the film as a true classic is its creative premise, endearing characters, and genuine heart. The film features an impressive number of memorable characters, brought to life by an equally memorable cast.
These guys are professionals. They're the best.
The chemistry between Tom Hanks and Tim Allen as Woody and Buzz Lightyear completely sells their initial rivalry and eventual friendship. A number of actors were considered for the role of Buzz Lightyear, including Billy Crystal, who would later voice Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc. and its prequel, Monsters University, as well as the upcoming Disney Plus series, Monsters at Work.
I know! Hey, wasn't I great? Did the whole family see it? It's your mom. What can I say? The camera loves me.
While Woody and Buzz were both created specifically for the film, a number of the supporting characters were based on pre-existing toys, such as Don Rickles' Mr. Potato Head.
Hey, Ham, look, I'm Picasso.
I don't get it.
You uncultured swine. What are you looking at, you hockey puck?
Originally, Woody's love interest was going to be a Barbie doll. She would have played a significant role in rescuing him and Buzz from Sid's dog Scud at the end of the film. However, Mattel denied Pixar permission to use their character, as they feared the film would be a failure, and they didn't want Barbie to have a defined personality. Rather tellingly, after the film was a huge success, Mattel was perfectly happy for Barbie to be included in the sequel. Hasbro also denied Pixar permission to use the G.I. Joe name when they learnt the doll in question was going to be blown up.
He's lighting it! Hit the dirt!
The doomed figure was instead referred to as a Combat Carl, a character the franchise would later return to. Humans feature far less prominently, partly because the film is being told from the toys' perspective. The film is called Toy Story, after all, but also because humans are a lot harder to animate. However, these characters are still an integral part of the film. For instance, the toy's owner, Andy Davis, voiced by John Morris, is so significant that even when he isn't present on screen, he is still crucial to the plot. The film's antagonist, Sid Phillips, voiced by Eric Von Detten, was apparently based on a Pixar employee with the same surname, who would disassemble toys in order to create bizarre creations.
Doctor, you've done it!
Genie's all better now.
Toy Story is remembered for its clever humour which can be enjoyed by all ages.
How you doing, Rex?
Were you scared? Tell me honestly.
I was close to being scared that time.
Oh, I'm going for fearsome here, but I just don't feel it. I think I'm just coming off as annoying.
In contrast to its sequels, the first film also includes examples of slightly more grown-up humour. It is also quite mean-spirited at times. Woody is not only incredibly jealous of Buzz early on, but is actually quite aggressive towards him.
I could have stopped him. Buzz, I would love to see you try.
Of course, I'd love to see you as a crater.
Unlike many of its animated contemporaries, Toy Story is not a musical. Disney did actually push for the film to be a musical, but director John Lasseter felt adamantly that it would work better as a buddy comedy. The film's score was composed by Randy Newman. Newman's music is an integral part of the film, and by extension, the franchise. He wrote 3 original songs for the film, most memorably, You've Got a Friend in Me. The simple song so encapsulates the spirit of the film, it's no wonder it's since gone on to become the anthem of the franchise.
Baby, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. It's me and you, boy.
Pixar are well known for including self-referential Easter eggs in their films, and this first offering is no exception. For example, many of the books in Andy's room share their titles with a number of the studio's early short films. The film also includes references to other well-known films such as Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars.
Right now, poised at the edge of the galaxy, Emperor Zurg has been secretly building a weapon with the destructive capacity to annihilate an entire planet. I alone have information that reveals this weapon's only weakness.
There are also several nods to Disney. Not only does Andy have a Mickey Mouse clock on his bedroom wall, but the song Hakuna Matata from The Lion King can be heard in the Davis' car during the moving scene. It is worth noting that, as an infant, Molly really shouldn't be travelling in the front seat. Buzz even has the Disney name embellished on his butt. With the benefit of over 2 decades of hindsight, viewers have asked a number of questions, such as, if Buzz believes he is a real space ranger and not a toy, why does he still freeze whenever humans are around? If the family are moving in a matter of days, why does Mrs. Davis bother changing the decor in her son's bedroom? And of course, where is Andy's dad? While it can be fun to theorise answers to these questions, it isn't worth fixating on them to the point where it affects your enjoyment of the film. The rules of the Toy Story universe have always been somewhat unclear, which I think is for the best. Much like the world of Cars, it isn't meant to be overthought. Toy Story is a film which transcends the time in which it was made. While computer animation has advanced considerably since the film's release, and certain aspects now seem slightly dated, its themes of friendship and loyalty remain timeless. Pixar released their second film, A Bug's Life, one of their more underrated offerings in my opinion, in 1998. The following year they returned to the world of Andy's room with Toy Story 2. I do find it amusing that for a decade and a half Pixar had a reputation for not doing sequels, yet their third film was a sequel. In my Why I Love video on Tron Legacy, I alluded to a handful of sequels which I believe to be superior to their respective predecessors. Toy Story 2 is one such sequel. The main cast all returned for this film, along with a number of new additions such as Estelle Harris's Mrs. Potato Head.
I'm packing you an extra pair of shoes and your angry eyes, just in case.
Interestingly, this was the first sequel Tom Hanks and Tim Allen ever made. The film builds on the relationship between Woody and Buzz, with their roles essentially being reversed. In the first film, Woody had to convince Buzz that he was in fact a toy.
You are a toy! You weren't the real Buzz Lightyear, you're an action figure! You are a child's plaything!
In this film, Buzz has to remind Woody of that same fact, and what it means.
Woody, you're not a collector's item. You're a child's plaything. You are a toy!
2 of the most significant additions to the franchise are Jessie the yodeling cowgirl, voiced by Joan Cusack, and Woody's trusty steed, Bullseye.
Ride like the wind, Bullseye!
Despite initial appearances, Jessie is a very damaged character. something the film commendably takes the time to explore.
I can't do storage again, I just can't!
Jesse!
I won't go back in the dark!
There are more human characters than in the first film. Andy doesn't appear as much, as he is away at cowboy camp for much of the runtime. However, his absence gives the toys more freedom, allowing the sequel to be more ambitious in its scope. The first film had a single human antagonist. The sequel ups the ante by introducing two antagonists, one human and one toy. The film's primary antagonist is Al McWiggin, voiced by Wayne Knight. Al is the owner of Al's Toy Barn, a chain of toy stores which was actually mentioned in the first film.
Buzz Lightyear!
Available at all Al's Toy Barn outlets in the Tri-County area.
The secondary antagonist is revealed to be Stinky Pete the Prospector, voiced by Kelsey Grammer. The idea of a resentful mint-in-the-box toy is wonderfully unique to the Toy Story franchise.
I'll tell you what's not fair. Spending a lifetime on a dime store shelf watching every other toy be sold. Well, finally my waiting is paid off, and no hand-me-down cowboy doll is gonna mess it up for me now!
A staged outtake wherein the Prospector suggests to two identical Barbie dolls that he can get them a role in Toy Story 3 has subsequently been removed from later releases of the film. Toy Story 2 was originally planned as a direct-to-video sequel, akin to Disney's ever-growing list of follow-ups. However, when executives saw the high quality of the production, they instead opted for a theatrical release. Several ideas which had been dropped from the first film were repurposed for the sequel, including Woody's nightmare, the yard sale, and even the character of Al. The first film was originally going to open with Andy watching a cartoon TV series centered around Buzz Lightyear. Although the scene was cut, the idea of a Buzz Lightyear cartoon eventually became a reality in the form of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. The series even featured Wayne Knight as the voice of evil Emperor Zurg. Instead, in Toy Story 2, Woody discovers that he is the product of a hugely popular marionette series from the 1950s, called Woody's Roundup.
Woody, what are you talking about?
What am I talking about? Woody's Roundup! Oh, it's this great old TV show, and I was the star. See, now look at me. See, that's me.
This is weirding me out.
Buzz, it was a national phenomenon.
This film's animation is far more impressive than its predecessor. In addition to their trademark Easter eggs, Pixar reused a number of elements from previous productions. The canyon, seen in the Buzz Lightyear video game at the beginning of the film, was originally an early version of Ant Island from A Bug's Life. The floating rocks were actually a mistake, but worked well in this film. The tree from Ant Island also appears later in the film. The cleaner who fixes Woody is actually the same character model as Jerry from the 1997 short film Jerry's Game. The film also includes a number of visual callbacks to the original. Pixar's attention to detail is impressive. In Woody's Nightmare, all the playing cards show the Ace of Spades, which can represent misfortune. Speaking of which, Toy Story 2 had an infamously troubled production. Less than a year from the film's release, 90% of the animation files were accidentally deleted. To make matters worse, the studio's backups had stopped working. Fortunately, supervising technical director Galen Sussman, who had recently had a baby, realized she still had a copy of the film, as she had been working from home during her maternity leave. Thankfully, the animators were able to recover most of the lost work. If you want to know more about that particular incident, there are numerous YouTube videos covering it. The film continues the clever humor of its predecessor.
What are we gonna do, Buzz?
Use your head.
But I don't want to use my head!
There are also examples of meta-humor throughout.
And this is the Buzz Lightyear aisle. Back in 1995, short-sighted retailers did not order enough dolls to meet demand.
It is surprisingly fun watching Tim Allen pull double duty as two different Buzz Lightyear figures.
Buzz?
You again? Woody, thank goodness you're all right.
Buzz, what is going on?
Hold on.
Oh!
I am Buzz Lightyear, and I'm in charge of this detachment. No, I'm Buzz Lightyear. I am Buzz Lightyear. I'm Buzz Lightyear.
So, who's the real Buzz?
I am.
This film is even more emotionally engaging than the first. In fact, the finale is quite intense.
Jesse, let go of the plane!
What, are you crazy?
Just pretend it's the final episode of Woody's Roundup!
But it was canceled! We never saw if you made it!
Well, then let's find out together!
Randy Newman returned to score this film, and also wrote 2 new songs, including an incredibly catchy theme for Woody's Roundup.
Cowboy Crunchies, the only cereal that's sugar frosted and dipped in chocolate, proudly presents Woody's Roundup. Come on, it's time to play.
The film features 2 new renditions of You've Got a Friend in Me. One performed by Tom Hanks as Woody in an episode of Woody's Roundup, and the other performed by Robert Goulet as Wheezy. Of course, the standout new song is When She Loved Me, performed by Sarah McLachlan.
When somebody loved me, everything was beautiful.
Newman actually worried young children wouldn't be able to sit through the 3-minute ballad. I must confess, when I was younger, this was my least favourite scene. However, I have since grown to appreciate the song. Pixar continued to include self-referential Easter eggs in this film. For example, when the toys are flipping through channels searching for the Al's Toy Barn commercial, they are actually glimpsing clips from previous Pixar-produced short films and commercials. There are also a bunch of references to A Bug's Life throughout.
You know, I can't believe that you talked them into making A Bug's Life too.
Oh, yeah, I can hardly believe it also. But there's a little baby tiny thing I forgot to tell you.
What's that, Heimlich?
Well, you know, it's a 2 movie, but it's not A Bug's Life 2.
Well, then, I don't understand. What is it then?
And action!
This film also includes references to well-known films such as Jurassic Park and The Empire Strikes Back.
Surrender, Buzz Lightyear. I have won.
I'll never give in. You killed my father.
No, Buzz. I am your father.
Like its predecessor, this film raises a number of questions, such as, if Woody was manufactured in the 1950s, something which was later confirmed in Toy Story 4, then surely he must have had at least one other owner prior to Andy. Mrs. Davis even refers to him as an old family toy.
I'm sorry, it's an old family toy.
Which would seem to imply Woody has been in the family longer than Andy has been alive. If this is the case, why does he appear to have no memory of this? How is Bullseye able to keep up with a full-sized aeroplane mere seconds from takeoff? Finally, I know Andy thinks his mum got him new toys while he was away at camp, but where does Mrs. Davis think that Jessie and Bullseye came from? Again, none of these questions detract from the quality of the film. Given all the behind-the-scenes challenges, it's a miracle Toy Story 2 even got finished, let alone that it ended up being as good as it is. As I mentioned earlier, the sequel surpasses the original. While the franchise did eventually continue, fans would have to wait 11 years for Toy Story 3. I will be reviewing Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4 in the next franchise reviews video, so make sure you're subscribed. In the meantime, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this franchise in the comments. Let me know which of these 2 films is your favourite and why. If you liked this video, why not give it a thumbs up? Maybe share it with a friend. Or an enemy. Either way, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to see more content here on Channel 73.